heat in the small frontier town of Dry Creek was dry, bitter, and heavy with dust. The townsfolk stood clustered in the midday sun, their boots scraping against the cracked wood of the auction yard. Murmurs drifted like smoke among the crowd, uneasy whispers and hard laughter, while a lone woman stood bound and blindfolded on a wooden platform like a piece of furniture, her hands tied tightly behind her back. A sign hung next to her that read in crude, chalked letters, "One woman, $2." She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stood there in a torn grey dress with frayed cuffs and dirt-stained boots, her face half hidden beneath the edge of the cloth sack tied over her eyes. Property, that's what they were calling her. Beneath her feet was a sack marked with that very word. Off to the side of the crowd, a man stood quietly, broad-shouldered, dressed in worn leather, dust coating his wide-brimmed hat. He was a stranger here, just passing through after selling a haul of timber in the mountains. His name was Jack Callahan, a former lumberjack turned drifter who hadn't spoken more than 10 words to another human in nearly a month. He was no hero, no outlaw, just a man who knew the value of silence and hard work. But the moment he saw the woman on the platform, something inside him stirred. A deep, painful ache, not for romance, not even for justice, but for dignity, for humanity, for the simple decency that had all but vanished from places like Dry Creek. The auctioneer cleared his throat, his voice sharp and cruel like a rusted blade. $2, that's all it'll take. She's strong, quiet, no trouble. Who'll start the bidding? Laughter rippled from the crowd, but no one stepped forward. No one wanted to be the first to put a price on a soul. Then Jack spoke. His voice was calm, gritty from disuse. "I'll pay." Heads turned, even the auctioneer paused. Jack stepped closer, pulling $2 silver from his pocket. The clink of metal against his palm sounded louder than a gunshot in the hush that followed. $2 cash, Jack said again. "Let her down." The auctioneer shrugged and raised his hand. "Sold." The gavel slammed. Jack stepped up to the platform, eyes locked on the woman as he climbed the steps. The town watched in eerie silence as he pulled a knife from his belt, slowly, not to scare her, and cut the rope from her wrists. She flinched but didn't speak. Her skin was bruised where the ropes had bitten too deep. He gently removed the blindfold. She blinked in the sunlight, her expression unreadable, but her eyes, sharp, green, and filled with guarded fire, met his without flinching. "My name, Jack," he said. "You're free now." She looked at him for a long time. "That's not how freedom works," she said softly. He nodded. "No, but it's a start." Her name was Clara Whitmore, and over the following days, Jack learned more about her than he'd ever expected. She had once lived in Kansas with her family on a small patch of farmland. When her parents died of fever, her uncle sold her like cattle to pay off a gambling debt. Since then, she'd passed through 3 towns, each worse than the last. Clara didn't trust easily. She refused to be touched, slept with her boots on, ate in silence, but Jack never pushed her. He offered her a room in a small cabin he'd rented at the edge of town, a safe place until she could figure out where to go. Days became weeks. She started walking to town on her own. She found work mending clothes. People whispered behind her back, calling her the $2 wife, but Clara held her head high. Jack kept his distance, but always walked her home. One day, a group of drunken men cornered her behind the general store, sneering, asking how much she cost for an hour. She didn't scream. She fought like a wildcat, and when Jack heard the commotion, he ran to find her already bloodied but standing. He didn't say a word, just helped her up and took her home. That night, she sat on the porch with him, staring into the hills. "I'm not broken," she whispered. "I never thought you were," Jack said. Clara turned to him. "You paid for me, why?" He looked at her long and hard. "Because you were being treated like something to be owned, and I couldn't live with myself if I walked away from that." Something changed between them after that. Not love, at least not yet, but understanding, mutual respect, a slow-burning companionship. They started working the land together. He taught her how to chop firewood, how to ride. She taught him how to plant beans, how to patch clothes without ruining them. They argued sometimes, sharp like flint, but neither ever walked away. One spring morning, Clara brought him coffee as he worked on fixing a fence. She handed him the cup and said, without looking at him, "You could have left me there." "I know. But you didn't. I couldn't." And that was it. A few weeks later, she asked him, just like that, if he wanted to marry her. No grand speech, no proposal, just a question under the open sky. He said yes. They married under the wide blue heavens, alone on the hilltop overlooking the valley. No preacher, no ring, just a carved wooden token she'd made and a vow spoken with honest voices. Life didn't suddenly get easy. There were still whispers in town, still men who looked at Clara like a relic of her past. But Jack stood by her, and in time people learned. They saw who she truly was, strong, proud, unafraid. Years later, when they had children of their own, Clara would tell them the story, not of how their father bought her, but how he rescued her when no one else dared. Not with a gun, not with a fight, but with kindness, with dignity. And when one of the kids asked why she married him, Clara would smile and say, "Because he saw me when the rest of the world saw a price tag." And Jack, with his rough hands and quiet eyes, would look over and say, "She wasn't mine, she never was, she just chose to stay." Their story lived on in Dry Creek long after they were gone. A tale of a $2 woman and the man who knew she was worth the whole damn world.